at the end of the service after extinguishing the chalice. We gather today to foster our understanding of our place in the universe, embracing the worth and dignity of all, supporting justice, equity, and peace in our world, accepting one another as we search for meaning, and respecting the connectedness of all life. For those of you who are new to us, please note that we are a diverse group with a wide variety of interests and beliefs. Therefore, our services are varied in format, tone, and topic. We encourage you to attend or view several services to gain a good understanding of our congregation. If you want to start receiving our weekly email of MVUUC news, please write your contact information on the blue information card found in the seat back pocket. There is a box on the greeting table where you can deposit this card after the service. Now, please take a moment to greet your neighbors. The chalice will be lit today by Robin Delamater. Please join me in reading the words provided for the lighting of the chalice. We light our chalice as a symbol of the light within us and the light that flows through the world around us. It is our beacon as we search for truth. It is the warmth in our hearts for love. Integrity calls us to action. May we be kindled by our time together. And now is the time for the sharing of joys, concerns, and milestones. Tina, please stop recording the service at this time. At MVUUC, we use the elements of stone and water to help us give voice to our...
But I wanted to find something that matched my worldview, and I was happy to find that in humanism. I became a secular humanist because I just never joined a church. I am not somebody who does church normally. Modern humanism came from the UU Church at the start of the 20th century with people like John Dietrich from the First Unitarian Church of Minneapolis and Curtis Reese. Curtis Reese helped found the American Humanist Association in 1941. And my group, the Secular Humanists of the Western Lake Erie, is a chapter of the AHA. The first Humanist Manifesto was signed in 1933 and is considered a description of religious humanism, since many of those involved in writing it and signing it were Unitarians, including Walter Mondale's brother, I believe brother Lester Mondale. And it also made the statement that this is religious humanism. So how did secular humanism show up in the humanist spectrum? And what is it? The simple definition is that secular humanism is humanism without a church. We don't meet on Sundays, we don't sing hymns or have rituals that you would normally find in a congregation such as this one. In fact, Reverend David Breeden, who is the senior minister of the First Unitarian Society in Minneapolis, who I happened to interview for one of my podcast episodes, informed me that they don't call it religious humanism anymore. It's called congregational humanism, because that pretty much matches what is in how it operates. Sorry. And so secular humanism is a fork, to use a tech term, for humanism, and it's for humanists who don't choose not to attend a church or join a church. A more blunt definition comes from Tom Flynn. He used to be with the Council for Secular Humanism. And he said, and he wrote, secular humanism begins with atheism, absence of belief in a deity and agnosticism or skepticism of the transcendent. Because no transcendent power will save us, secular humanists maintain that humans must take responsibility for themselves. While atheism is a necessary condition for secular humanism, it is not a sufficient one. Far from living in a moral vacuum, secular humanists wish to encourage, wherever possible, the growth of moral awareness and capacity for free choice and an understanding of the consequences thereof. So essentially, secular humanism rejects supernaturalism as the foundation of a worldview. Organized secular humanism evolved in the late 1970s when a man named Paul Kurtz left the American Humanist Association. Paul Kurtz was one of the authors of the Humanist Manifesto 2 that was signed in 1973. He believed that the AHA was dominated by religious humanism, and he believed that the humanist movement needed to evolve to be more secular in order to be more popular. So he started his own group. And so the group that he started today, you may recognize it if you've seen it online, the Center for Inquiry, and they also publish the Free Inquiry magazine. Kurtz issued a secular humanist declaration in 1980, and it lays out 10 ideals. Free inquiry as opposed to censorship or imposition of belief, separation of church and state, the ideal of freedom from religious control and from jingoistic government control, ethics based on critical intelligence rather than deduced from religious belief, moral education, religious skepticism, reason, and a belief in science and technology is the best way of understanding the world, evolution, and education as the essential method of building a humane, free, and democratic society. And there have been times when humanist thinkers have said or written that humanism needs no qualifier, like congregational humanism or secular humanism, and that we are all humanists. And we agree on the humanist consensus, and that's a fair assessment. The international group, the Humanists International, they don't use any qualifiers. And that's, the AHA is a member of that, and there's like the British Humanists, and they don't use any modifiers. And we had a former president of the AHA, Ed Dorr, who wrote, various modifiers are often placed in front of a term in an attempt to distinguish and clarify, but this practice can convey the opposite. For example, the naturalistic humanism or scientific humanism in encyclopedias or the secular humanism demonized by the religious right are redundant and unnecessary because the life stance is by definition naturalistic, scientific, and secular. Using modifiers in front of the term can also suggest the absurd that there is an opposite to naturalistic humanism and scientific humanism. But I would also note, too, that Ed Dorr did not appreciate atheists putting up billboards during Christmas time saying that there were alternatives to religion. So he was a bit of a curmudgeon back in the day. It reminds me of my school district in Findlay. I grew up in Findlay, graduated from Findlay High School, and we had some old buildings. Our middle schools were built in the 20s, and they got state money to build new schools. And so I went to Glenwood. There was Donnell and Central. Glenwood was the Eagles, Donnell was the Adams, and Central was the Spartans. Well, when they rebuilt the schools, they closed Central and built new buildings. They decided to do away with the individual mascots. And our high school team is the Trojans, so it became the Glenwood Trojans and the Donnell Trojans. And so they were saying that we're all Trojans now. And so how that builds up a consensus or a community by removing those qualifiers. And it was also a very large discussion in the public about that too. So I titled this talk, Secular Humanism, the sometimes ugly stepchild of humanism, not only because of the loving sibling rivalry that we have with congregational humanism, but secular humanism has been a lightning rod for attacks by Christian nationalists since the 1980s and during the days of the moral majority. We got dragged into the culture wars because of a footnote in a U.S. Supreme Court decision, Tarasco v. Watkins in 1961. This was a case where the court unanimously found that Maryland's requirement for a person holding public office to state a belief in God violated the First and 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution. Justice Hugo Black commented in a footnote, among the religions in this country which do not teach what would generally be considered a belief in the existence of a God are Buddhism, Taoism, ethical culture, secular humanism, and others. And of course, secular humanism and congregational humanism shares a history with ethical culture as well. Religious extremists like Jerry Falwell and Pat Robertson would use that footnote as proof that secular humanism was a religion and should be kept out of public schools like sectarian religion is banned. The Christian Nationalists ended up lumping anything they didn't like as secular humanism, and they wanted it banned, such as sex education and evolution, and some books. Author Tim LaHaye, he is the person that wrote the series, the Left Behind series, if you're familiar with that. He wrote a book in 2000 called Mind Siege that reportedly details the efforts of secular humanism to control the world and corrupt our children, which he argued meant that humanists shouldn't be allowed to serve in public office. And he wrote, no humanist is qualified to hold any governmental office in America, United States Senator, Congressman, Cabinet member, State Department employee, Department of Defense employee, or any other position that requires him to think in the best interest of America. He is a socialist one-worlder and an American second. We forget so soon that every tax increase is a move toward bigger government and more humanist, trained bureaucrats dedicated to dragging us, kicking us, and screaming into the New World Order. Does that sound familiar? Something that we're kind of hearing these days? And I really wish humanism was that powerful. I really do. Not only is it completely false, but it's similar what we hear about CRT and DEI. And I should tell you, too, that diversity, equality, and inclusion are humanist values. My own personal experience as a secular humanist has matched the less tolerant attitude of Ed Dorr, even within like-minded groups such as this one. And just like we see in sectarian belief groups, congregational and secular humanists have both claimed to be the better humanism. In fact, that struggle still shows up today. I was in a webinar recently discussing how we can grow our humanist groups in this day and age of social media and why many younger people don't join groups much anymore. The discussion was led by a Unitarian minister, and his answer was to have a church, meet the needs as a congregation. And I do acknowledge that a congregation meeting in a church or a building like this one can be important to some humanists. In my younger days, I was a little bit more militant about that, but as I've grown older, I've moderated my views. I have been contacted by people as president of my group asking about specific family activities that we could do, and we don't fulfill that function, but I have recommended them attend Unitarian churches. And one of my friends down in Columbus during the days I was down there, he had two young children, and he joined the local Unitarian church because he wanted some family-friendly, non-theistic activities for his family to attend. And his kids actually were happy, and they were happy with it as well. In my long-term plans, I hope to be able to have more family-focused events and programming, but of course it takes resources I don't have right now. It's like a catch-22. You need family activities to attract families, but you need families to justify having those family activities. However, I do disagree with those who believe that you must have a congregation in order to meet the needs of people. I don't believe there is one model, perfect model of organization. You do need to have a cadre of committed volunteers who want to help grow your community, and I was very pleased to see the many volunteers working here today. And that is one thing that we can borrow from the religious, is that they're really good at marshaling volunteers to address a need in a community. I just don't believe that it's an innate feature or that you need to have a building like a church or formal services. And my niche is to try and provide a community without all the trappings of a formal congregation for those that are looking for that. So I'm not trying to compete with you guys. I'm trying to be complimentary. Of course, that is ironic coming from me, the founder and leader of a group that we're basically nomads and dependent on the local libraries for meeting space. And then we have to abide by their rules that come with it, like not being able to pass a hat. I would love to have a building I could call home for my community, just so we would have a consistent meeting place, and hope that it was big enough to share with other non-theistic groups in the area needing a home. I would love to have a dedicated space for a library of humanist books and be able to share them with anybody that's interested. I do this occasionally, as I looked on Google, and I noticed that there were at least 12 churches within a mile of my house. Why don't I find that many humanist houses near me? I would love to see that. I would like to let you in on a little secret. When I was naming my group, the Secular Humanists of Western Lake Erie, the actual idea was more marketing than philosophical. I like the initials SHOWLE, or Showley as we call it on my board. And we have discussed and may in fact in the future change our names to shorten it. Personally, I am still a secular humanist, but our group accepts anyone who wants to support our values. Even religious believers are welcome. We do make a point of not toning down our beliefs, but we aren't anti-religious. We're just anti-bigotry, and we support social justice issues. We actually had a former leader of the Emmanuel Christian School in Toledo attend some of our meetings. He reads the Bible every day, but wanted to explore humanism, and he participated. He didn't try to preach to us or get us to convert. He actually participated. And we wouldn't be a group today without the early support of Reverend T.K. Berger at the Toledo First UU. He let us meet at his church for our first year, and I count him as one of our longtime members. He recently did an excellent talk at one of our meetings about an early humanist group in Toledo led by Dr. Gardner Williams. And we are having our best year so far in 2024. We have about 30 paid members, and our meetings have been attended by at least 10 people, which I consider a win. We are still too small to make a big impact in our community, but I like what we have done. For Darwin Day this past February, we volunteered at the Seagate Food Bank. Many religious people and business people seem to only volunteer for things like that during the holidays, and so we made an effort not to volunteer during the holidays. For the past several years, we have worked with Lucas County Children's Services to support a struggling family at Christmas time. And although we are a small group, I've been pleased that we have been able to go beyond the wish and needs list of our sponsored family each year. A recent service project that we do is we host a movie and free pizza event for kids at the Library Village neighborhood of Toledo at the West Toledo Branch Library. We just had one yesterday. We showed Inside Out 2, which that was another thing, is we wanted to make sure that the movies that we showed complemented humanist values. And that was the 6th event that we've had this year. And we actually had 34 people show up total, a couple of families and everything. The unique thing we bring to this program is we don't tell the kids about humanism or our group. We don't even have any signage up, but we do wear our t-shirt. We have group t-shirts. Religious groups will host something like that, and they'll want to give their testimony to you and invite you to their church. We don't do any of that. We don't require the kids hear a sermon before they get their free pizza. We have the outreach podcast, Glass City Humanists, that I host and produce. I've interviewed some local people and some bigger names in the free thought movement, like Rachel Lazar from Americans United and Nick Fish from American Atheists. And And we've had 5,000 downloads, over 87 episodes since I started it in 2020, right before the pandemic. And we also have a 30-minute time slot on community radio station WAKT 106.1 FM. It's also on ToledoRadio.org, where I spend time talking about humanists and humanist values, and I even share some interviews if I have some. In the past several months, I've been working with the group Honesty for Ohio Education on a toolkit to help parents and others fight back against the radical religious group LifeWise Academy that insists on taking kids off campus for a Bible school in the middle of the school day. LifeWise is manipulating Ohio law to inject the Bible into public schools, and our website, if you want more information on that, has a page about it. And we're opposing it not necessarily because of the religious issue, but because of it being in the middle of the school day. Sholey has had information booths at a few community events. This year was our second year. We had a booth at the Old West End Festival, and we also participated in the Maumee Summer Fair. And one of our ideas with the booth was having something for the kids, and I developed a prize wheel with the AHA's 10 commitments on it. And they spin the wheel, land on a humanist value, kind of educate them a little bit, and they get a prize out of it. I enjoy meeting new people, including those who may not agree with my worldview, and that they want to give me their testimony. Had a few of those this year. Every year we have a picnic at a metro park, and one of our members is hosting a potluck in their home this year. And this year, on December the 21st, we will be having our first ever winter solstice event at the Jaeger Center at Swan Creek Metro Park. I'd been wanting to do this event since I formed the group, but then the pandemic got in the way, and we were able to do it this year and schedule it. And the extra cherry on the top is we were able to book Gloria Steinem, a Toledo native and humanist, to visit on Zoom and say a few words. When we confirmed the booking, I actually got emotional about it because she's one of my heroes. So I hope that I haven't scared you away and I haven't made you mad. But I hope I've educated you about secular humanism and how it really isn't any different than congregational humanism and is really close to Unitarianism. And it's okay to take different paths to support our shared humanist values. And I'll be more than happy to talk with you about my group and other things afterwards, or you can send me an email, text me, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Doug. And yeah, we do look forward to having the chance to talk with you afterwards during our coffee hour. Thanks so much. Next, our second hymn is going to be number 300 with Heart and Mind. So it's number 300. And now we pass our offertory basket. All donations are gratefully welcomed. If you make automatic pledge payments, please place one of the yellow cards indicating the support in the basket. Thank you. And now is time for our closing words, titled The Humanist in Me by the Reverend Bruce Clear from All Souls Unitarian Church in Indianapolis. Humanism is non-dogmatic and open-ended. It is the belief that human beings are the source of meaning and values. It is a scientific search, self-correcting and open to change with new knowledge and new insights. Humanism is deeply concerned with ethics and values, but rather than telling people what they should or should not do, it assists their search for values and attempts to help them achieve their full positive potential as human beings. Humanists see humanity as having the capacity for continued growth and development, and they accept responsibility for encouraging that growth. On the surface, this sounds like Unitarianism, doesn't it? Well, it should, because Unitarians and Humanists do, of course, have a great deal in common. It is not just a surface similarity. As a matter of fact, humanism, as an organized movement in the United States, began within Unitarian churches. Is there a difference then between Unitarianism and humanism? Humanism as a movement, as I've tried to show, is deeply rooted in Unitarianism. It is also fair to say that Unitarianism, as an organized movement, is historically rooted in the long-standing humanist traditions of the Enlightenment. As compatible and related as they are, though, I believe there are subtle differences in emphasis that ought to be recognized. The subtle difference in emphasis, as I see, is that in Unitarianism, the value of freedom takes precedence, and in humanism, the value of reason takes precedence. This does not mean at all that Unitarians reject reason or that humanists reject freedom. Rather, as I say, it is merely and subtly a difference of emphasis. Both approaches are highly compatible. And now is time for our extinguishing of the chalice. Please join me in reading along with the words displayed. Be kind, be brave, be just, be merciful, be hopeful. This is how we keep the chalice flame burning until we are together again to light it anew. And now is the time in the service for announcements. Does anyone have announcements? Okay, you can come on up and...
I will start. It's not about blood drives. Although March, first Saturday in March, I'm just saying. Prepare. As you may have noticed, on the wall here, we have paint chips, and in the foyer, we have paint chips. We are going to paint the sanctuary ceiling and walls, and this is your chance to give your opinion. Speak now or shh. So, over there is a QR code. You can scan it with your phone. It will take you to some pictures of what this would look like with the different colors on the ceiling. to give you an idea, and the walls, to give you an idea of what it would look like in case you're like me and you can't really visualize very well. It also will send you to, that is also a form where you can vote on your one favorite, and then underneath that, you can vote for which ones you could live with. There are two different questions, and we are planning to go with majority wins. So in the foyer and here, as you can see, it says the colors, it says ceilings and walls. So whatever color goes on this ceiling, which is going to be the darker color, is going to go on the walls in the foyer. And whatever goes on the walls in here, which is the lighter color, will go on the ceiling in the foyer. So we're kind of tying them together. And again, you can see pictures if you go to the QR code. Okay? If you have any questions about it, please don't hesitate to ask me or Colleen, and we'll be happy to try and explain it more if you need more of an explanation. If you don't like using the phone and QR codes and forms and whatnot, you can just write it on the piece of paper underneath the QR code. We're taking them that way too. Oh, 2 weeks. We're doing it this Sunday and we're voting next Sunday, and then we're making the decision.
Just a quick reminder that next Sunday, being the first Sunday of the month, means we'll be taking collections for Brown Bag. And I've taken over the responsibility of taking those to Brown Bag every time they come. And feel free to drop them off at any other time, any other Sunday. I'll check it every time I come. But the last time I took it, there was one box of cereal. And when I took it up there, I said, you know, this is from MVU. You see, and they're like, oh, great, we're totally out of breakfast food. And I looked over, and there was 20 cars already in line, and it wasn't time for them to even open yet. So I zipped over to Aldi and grabbed 50 boxes of cereal and took them over, because I couldn't imagine all these people coming in not even having a breakfast item. So my thought is, some of us may be financially challenged with the increase in food prices ourselves, but if you have even a little bit, or maybe you get a coupon from Kroger, whomever, buy one, get one free. If it's something you don't use, go ahead and pick it up and get it, bring it. If you find yourself having a party and, oh, I got 3 extra boxes of pasta, bring them on over, grab 2 toothbrushes instead of 1, whatever, because there are so many people in need. Brown Bag is being wiped out like every day that they are open, and I know that the BG Christian Food Pantry is having a similar problem. Because that's often the only part of someone's budget that has any movement to move around. They can't change what their car payment and house payment is, so they're reducing the food budget, and that leaves a lot of people struggling.
Hi, I'm going to a family wedding in San Jose next week, and I'll be working the following weeks. So if anyone wants to be a greeter, it's an easy job for a friendly person. You just say, you welcome new people, you give them a name badge, you introduce them to a couple people, offer them coffee, and also if they're interested, you tell them about our blue card. It's really an easy job from about 10:30 to 11. And so if anybody's interested, please sign up.
Thanks, Dawn. No more friendly face to meet than Miss Dawn on Sunday morning, that's for sure. I got it. You just talk, I'm holding.
We are going to hold our one more get-together after service, maybe after you've had a chance to talk with Doug a little bit. We'll have a little circle over here to talk about your ideas, questions, input you may have for a meditation remembrance memorial garden. So please give us your input. We've had some great ideas from people. The ideas expanded greatly from where we started. So we've got some wonderful ideas already. We'd love for you to bring some more and share your ideas. I think we're planning, if this is okay, to announce that next week, while you're voting on the wall colors, we'll also have a little survey that you can fill out to sort of more formally gather people's ideas. put together based on what we've gotten already. So again, give us your ideas. We'll be over here in a little circle after the service. Thank you.
Megan.
Thank you. One last announcement. Our October social action is going to be preparing a meal at the Ronald McDonald House in Toledo. I think we have enough cooks because they, I think, might have a small, they have a limit of 6 cooks, so we can't bring a big team. But what we really would love more help with is ingredients. So we do already have some canned goods contributed in the pantry, so thank you to those of you who have contributed already. But we have a list of ingredients that we need linked in our newsletter. So if you go to the section in the newsletter where we talk about the Ronald McDonald House, there's a link to a Google Doc where you can write your name next to the ingredient that you will provide. Most of these ingredients can be purchased in advance, but some of them are fresh things like vegetables and stuff. So the Friday before, so the dinner is happening on October 19th. That's a Saturday. Friday, October 18th, we will, or I will be here at the church building to accept donations of fresh stuff so that you can purchase it closer to when the meal is actually happening. Did that make sense, what I just said? Okay, I've had a lot of coffee this morning. Okay, so thank you in advance to folks who contribute, and thank you to those who have already contributed.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So after you vote for paint colors, when the service ends, please stay for coffee hour after that. And hopefully Doug can stick around and we can have some conversations about secular humanism and what we learned today. And now it's time for our closing song.
Have a good day.